Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview Channel 236.
On Sky, we're Channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Hi there, and a very good afternoon to you. Colin Brazier with you through until 2 this New Year's Eve lunchtime. We reflect on the year that was and the 12 months to come. Tom Tugendhat, Chair of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, will be with me to ponder on how the world beyond Britain's shores changed in 2021. We've also got guests this hour looking back on politics, technology and the royal family. Plus the weatherman, John Ketley, tells me why December's skies have been the greyest in 65 years. But first, the headlines with Rhiannon Jones.
I'm Rhiannon Jones. This is your news at 12:02. Boris Johnson has announced government booster targets have been met and that the UK is in an incomparably better position than this time last year. In his New Year message, the Prime Minister says the country has offered all eligible adults the chance to get a booster jab. He adds 7 in 10 in England have had their third vaccine. But he urged those celebrating tonight to remain cautious and to take a test before going out.
British people have responded heroically, voluntarily, and in almost incredible numbers to the call to get vaccinated. Though I must of course urge everyone to be cautious and to take a test if you're going out, and to remember the importance of ventilation. Follow the rules if you're in Scotland or Wales or Northern Ireland.
Health leaders, meanwhile, have warned up to 40% of vaccine appointments are no-shows. The NHS has said it's encouraging to see people coming forward for their jabs. However, some vaccination clinics are reportedly only a third full. Doctors are urging everyone to take up their jab and take necessary precautions while celebrating this new year.
Please, whatever happens, don't shoot the messengers. Those of us who are in healthcare, our main concern is to make sure that the risk of infections are minimized. And if people are rigorous and nevertheless can have a chance to enjoy themselves, that's what we're all aiming for.
Sadiq Khan says he's devastated after 2 boys were stabbed to death within an hour of each other in separate incidents in the capital. The Mayor of London says police are working to bring those responsible to justice. The killings bring the number of teenage homicides in London this year to a record 30. It comes as experts say disagreements escalating on social media are partly to blame for the rise in teenage violence in London. Youth worker Ken Hines says education is key to tackling it.
It's very troubling. We're not learning lessons from the past. We continue to make the same mistakes. We need stronger deterrence with young people who are carrying weapons. We need to have better education of young people to stop them from picking up or carrying knives or walking with other youngsters who may encourage them to carry knives.
Tens of thousands of people have been evacuated from their homes in the US amid devastating wildfires. The governor of Colorado has declared a state of emergency after 600 homes were destroyed. The fires are spreading quickly in strong winds of up to 105 miles an hour, with the blaze currently covering 2.5 square miles. Scientists say climate change and an extremely dry autumn and winter are to blame. The US and Russian presidents have exchanged warnings over Ukraine. During the call, Joe Biden said he needed to see Russia decrease its military build-up near Ukraine. Vladimir Putin, meanwhile, said sanctions threatened by Washington and its allies could lead to a breakdown in relations. Both sides, though, said diplomatic talks in January could ease spiralling tensions. Britain has approved the use of a Pfizer COVID pill for at-risk adults. The UK's medicines regulator has given the go-ahead to a Pfizer COVID-19 pill called Paxlovid. It's geared towards anyone aged 18 and over with mild to moderate COVID and who are at high risk of developing further severe symptoms. Credit card spending has leapt past pre-pandemic levels. Barclaycard says consumer spending has risen by nearly 6% this year compared to 2019. The credit card giant says it's due to a boom in online shopping. Takeaways, digital entertainment and home improvements were among the things consumers spent their money on, despite the broader economic impact of the pandemic. Britons living in the EU have been given the green light to travel home by road via France. Non-essential travel to the country has been largely banned since 18th of December in a bid to limit the spread of the Omicron variant. It comes as Germany is also set to lift a ban on British tourists. From the 4th of January, those fully vaccinated or that have an important reason to travel can enter the country. Care homes that set up their own makeshift pubs during lockdown boosted the spirits of those cut off from loved ones, as surveys found. More than half of 4,000 care home staff said socialising in-house helped residents' well-being during the pandemic. 3/4 were found to have formed a stronger bond, while a fifth used the pub daily. That's your news update. I'll be back in half an hour with the latest headlines. Now let's return to Colin.
Well, you saw it was our main story in the Bulletin there. Labour leader Keir Starmer has praised Britain's community spirit in his New Year's message. Sir Keir was looking back on a year that's seen his electoral fortunes transformed, really, in the space of a few months. In the summer, his party and his personal approval ratings, for that matter, were languishing in the polls. But in the second half of 2021, it seems to be all change. A persistent lead in opinion surveys of the voting public and, perhaps too, an endorsement of his approach to politics. Serious, measured and forensic, say his supporters. Certainly he's often been inclined to back the government on COVID measures, even if that's meant ignoring critics in his party who've demanded more rhetorical pyrotechnics. Well, let's turn to Peter Dowd, the Labour MP for Bootle, to see what he makes of the year that's been for his leader. Peter Dowd, welcome to you. Thanks for your time today. Do appreciate it. What have you made of 2021 from the backbenches?
Well, I think it's been a challenging year for everyone. We've had the ups and downs of the year, whether it be economically, socially, COVID having massive impacts upon people's lives, people's jobs, people's engagement. So it's just been what can I say? It's been an incredibly challenging year on top of a challenging year from the year before, since COVID hit the streets, so to speak, in the springtime.
I mean, I mentioned the polls there, and I mean, just setting COVID aside for a second, and as we move over the next 2 years, as we approach the next general election, we presume, we hope, obviously, don't we, that COVID will play a diminishing role in party politics. What should Keir Starmer keep doing that you think is working for the voting public? There does seem to have been a shift in attitudes towards his leadership and the policies that he represents. What should he stop doing too, if you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think, look, COVID has sort of brought the attention to everybody of public services being in a bit of a state, whether that be education, for a fragmented system with academies, free schools, aided schools, teacher shortages. And then you go on to things like the NHS, huge pressures on the NHS before COVID, 5.7 million waiting list. Look, the list goes on, social care. So I think what we've got to do is to continue to bring home to the country that public services and investment in the economy, for example, the wider economy, continue to be pretty poor. And even when we get over COVID, we just don't want to be going back to public services being in this sort of this pretty grim state. So I think the message from Labour has got to be, yes, we all pull together during coronavirus and during the virus, and that was absolutely right to do. We've all had our criticisms about voting for this or voting for that. But we've still got to bring to the attention to the electorate, to the public, that public services will continue to be under huge strains, whether that be the justice system, welfare system, the NHS, education, local government. That's what we've got to continue to get the message out to people about.
Just in terms of the party's ideological direction, I mean, obviously this is really subjective stuff, what you draw attention to as you look back over the course of a year. But a couple of Labour backbenchers and what surrounded them over the course of the year and what they said or what they didn't say came to my mind. I thought of Rosie Duffield and the sense in which she represents a battle at the heart of Labour, whether it stands for some of those old Labour heartland values or to what extent it's prepared to embrace the new social justice identity politics, which she repudiates. And then I thought of Angela Rayner and the comments which she stood by for a while, but eventually apologised for when she described Conservatives as scum. Your thoughts on both those women?
Well, look, I think the both of them are doing a great job given the circumstances that we face. People always say this about the Labour Party is a broad church. It gets a little bit hackneyed and it gets a little bit, we've heard that a million times, but that's the reality of the Labour Party. That's why you get ideas coming from the party, from both sides, both wings of the party. So it isn't all about the right or the left. It's about using the talents from both sides of the party, and it's trying to use the initiative and the policies from, if you're on both sides of the party, to try to get what we believe is best for the country in terms of the stuff I talked about, whether that be a decent NHS where you're not having to wait weeks for an operation, or potentially is. So it's actually trying to galvanise both sides of the party to actually come together to come up with policies that are attractive but do challenge the status quo, because the status quo at the moment isn't working.
And I suppose to some degree, I mean, one big step forward, if I can put it this way, and not everybody will see it this way, is that you've put Brexit behind you as a divisive issue. I mean, so have the Tories as well. But I just wonder, I mean, I take your point about the broad church, and of course the Tories say that too, but on that fundamental dividing line that seems to be hardening in Labour between those people who see society principally through the lens of class, and those people who see politics now principally through the lens of identity politics. It's what you are, not what class you are, but your colour, your gender, your sexual orientation. And that feels like a big dividing line in the Labour movement.
Well, I don't think that dividing line is there to that degree. It's a mix of all of those sorts of things. It isn't just about class or about gender or a race. It's a mix of all those things. And I think when we start to go down these sort of holes, these sort of rabbit warrens, that's where we sort of start to get into trouble. What we've got to acknowledge is that, whoever you are, what you want is a reasonable life, a reasonable lifestyle. You want your children to be decently educated. You want to be able to get access to the NHS. You want to be able to get access to a dentist. You want access to a decent job. You want a job that pays well. You want a job that's secure. Whoever you are, and what Labour's got to do is to get that message across to all of those people that Labour are there for you, whoever you are. It doesn't matter who you are. You are a person, and that's the important thing.
Paul Bootle. Peter Dowd, appreciate your time. Thanks very much. Well, if the Conservatives are to overcome Labour's recent surge in the polls, they'll need the economy to rally after the pandemic. What are the prospects for that? Well, it depends which end of the telescope you look through. Pent-up demand and high levels of savings amongst individuals and businesses suggest that suppressed spending might be coming to an end. But there are also potential tiger traps. Inflation may hit 6%, maybe even higher. The housing market, having hit a record high last year, the year that's just been, might be due a correction. And then there are shortages, most obviously of labour in key areas, but also of some products held up in global supply chains. So then, what's to come? What about the year we've had? Here's Justin Urquhart-Stewart, co-founder of Regionally and a regular contributor here. Justin, thanks so much for your time. Do appreciate it.
My pleasure, Colin. Thank you.
Your best guess is for the year to come?
Well, I think there's still going to be growth, not as such enthusiastic growth as the Chancellor was telling us. We had 6% last year. Well, that's great. That was a nice bounce back. That's the sort of the V-shaped recovery you're going to get to start with. After that, well, then it gets more difficult, and you're probably going to get a sort of W shape as it sort of bumbles along. So growth probably around about 4%, so lower than what he's talking about. But the better news is actually the global economy is also growing around about that rate. And considering what's happened over the past 2 years, frankly, that's quite remarkable.
And do you begin to see the first evidence of the advantage of being global Britain, of signing trade deals with Australia and other countries, freed from the European Union and some of the more restrictive trade practices that involves?
It's still very too early to tell, frankly, because it's good having deals with Australia and New Zealand, but A, they're on the other side of the world, and B, they're not very big. The EU, whether you like it or not, is our largest trading partner and is still our largest trading partner. So if we want to concentrate on making sure we have trade running smoothly, looking close to hand is probably better than signing up deals elsewhere around the world, which in the long term I shall be fine. But we need to make sure that enough confidence is coming through with regard to the effects of Brexit, that people want to invest, companies want to invest, and we start to attract more external investment into the economy. Those are some key measures that the government should be looking at.
I was talking to somebody who works in recruitment recently who painted it's not a bleak picture, because obviously on one level, the fact you've got so many vacancies, and it's particularly marked in some sectors, is a good thing. It's a barometer of an economy that's ticking nicely. But it feels like we need to get used to the idea, and the reasons behind it may be many and varied, but we need to get used to the idea that Labour can now hold the whip hand to some degree and start to bargain up their pay.
Well, this is an interesting point, because if you look at the current inflation figures, we're talking about over 5% now. We haven't seen 5% for decades. Certainly before, we discussed on the channel that actually we go back to the 70s, we had 25% inflation. And people haven't really experienced that. And it is devastating for economy if you have maintained that level of inflation. So 5 or 6% is going to be too high. It'll start coming down a bit. But you're quite right. Labour will be sitting there, Labour, whether it's trade unions or others, will be sitting there saying, no, we need a better return, please, because it's all very well giving me a 2% pay rise, but inflation is at 5% and 3% worse off. So that needs to change. But the big difference between now and the 70s is we were far more unionised then. They're much more powerful. Whereas now we're probably more dominated by the gig economy, where the negotiating skills strength is weaker. But on the other hand, the very fact that you've got such a shortage of labour, people are going to have to spend more and to actually get people into those jobs. And they are often the lowest end of the pay levels. So I don't think people can begrudge that. But that is one of the measures you can see coming out of Brexit. The number of areas which needed European employment coming over here, whether it's picking fruit and vegetables or whether it's in the service sector, and especially in terms of leisure and tourism.
Justin Urquhart-Stewart, as ever, thanks very much indeed for your time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Coming up, a roundup of this year's biggest stories in politics, in tech, and for the royal family. It's after the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello. The last day of the year will be very mild for the time of year. A lot of clouds out there, but most places staying dry. There will be some rain here and there through this evening, particularly across parts of Scotland. We've got an area of low pressure nearby. This weather front brought some heavy rain earlier to parts of eastern England, and this weather front is just lingering across Scotland, slowly edging northwards. So things turning a little dry this afternoon through the central belt, but otherwise there will be a lot of cloud and some patchy rain in the west of Scotland. Much of the rest of the UK, though, dry, lots of cloud, but some brighter skies across parts of central and eastern England, the odd shower over the hills of Wales and northwest England, and it is very mild. Temperatures 13, 14, 15 degrees in a few places. Cooler across northern Scotland, but even here temperatures above average. A bit more of that rain then trickles north through this evening, and we'll see another area of rain, potentially bring a few showers across Northern Ireland, and then around midnight we will see some outbreaks of rain pushing into southern Scotland. That'll work its way towards northern Scotland through the early hours. Otherwise, again, most places dry, and it will be a very mild night if you're heading out. Temperatures in many towns and cities holding up in double figures. Mild start to 2022 then. There will be this band of rain working from west to east slowly through the morning. It'll tend to fizzle out across northern England, Scotland, some good spells of sunshine here, but we will see a bit of patchy rain lingering across East Anglia and the southeast into the afternoon. Showers coming into the northwest, where it will be very windy actually, a blustery afternoon across the Western Isles especially. But again, it will be very mild, although that wind will make it feel a little cooler. Staying fairly gusty through Saturday evening as well, and into Sunday, we're looking at things staying pretty mild with further heavy rain coming in, perhaps across the south. That rain could be very heavy on Sunday. Staying showery on Monday before things turn brighter, but also colder for Tuesday and Wednesday.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join me, Mark White, here on GB News. For more than 2 decades, I've been at the sharp end